Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. You are tuned in to the American Cream Show, and I am your host, Hyacinth Henderson. And Cream is a financial educational show where I show you, teach you, lead you, and guide you on how to redefine the American dream on your terms with Cream. And Cream stands for credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and management. Assets and mindset. And we know that it is important to redefine the American dream on our terms, because if we listen to anybody else's terms, we might end up where they are, right? So we want to learn the 5 pillars. And again, that is credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset, and kind of do things in a different way so that we can have a different result. Thank you so much for being here today. If you are here on Facebook, you know what we do. We start affirming ourselves as soon as we come into the room. Go ahead and drop some your affirmations in the comments. Happiest Saturday to everyone. If you are my YouTube family, thank you all for being here. I see the watch numbers going up. I see the subscriber numbers going up. So thank you so much for being here, not only for me, but for you, because this is truly about you and your financial future. So again, it is the American Cream Show, a financial educational show, and I've cut the time down to 30 minutes. So if you missed last week's show, now you know that every Saturday I'm going to record the American Cream Show live, and it will be 30 minutes, quick in and out from 9:30 to 10 a.m. All right, so today we're talking about how to build real wealth in your 20s. Okay. And so don't worry if you're beyond your 20s, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, there are still some messages and some tips in this episode that you can apply, right? So age really is a state of mind. And if you listen to this episode and you realize I didn't do that or I didn't know that, feel free to incorporate it wherever you are. But if you're in your 20s, I want you to start doing this, not now, but right now. I want you to watch this episode, share the episode. It should be blasting all over the speakers in your house. You can put this on your TV now with the smart TVs. You should be sharing it. The shares should be going up. Everybody on here should be sharing that, but sharing this video, because truly we want our people to build wealth, and we really want to start early, right? So if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, oftentimes you may find yourself saying, I wish I had a head start. So give someone else that head start by sharing this video. And guess what? You can do it for the low price of FREE. That's right, free. Free 99 is your lucky price today. All right, so earlier this week, my son and I, we were driving. And he said, Mommy, and he's 10. He's a 10-year-old, my 10-year-old baby, right? So he said, Mommy, how do people get to choose what language they speak? And I said, what do you mean? And he says, some people speak Spanish, some people speak French. It depends on where they, different languages they speak. Not everybody speaks English. And I said, that's a great question. I said, well, when they come out as a baby, just like when you came out as a baby, we were speaking English to you. So as you were learning, we started to speak English to you. And you realized that if you wanted to communicate with us, you needed to speak in the language that we started speaking with you at home. And so as you got older, then we explored options to put you in Spanish and different things like that. But the foundation starts at home. The baby didn't necessarily choose what language they spoke. It depended on their environment. So as you think about wealth, as you think about wealth building, as you think about the money, the language of wealth, the language of finance, I want you to ask yourself, what environment are you in? Are you in an environment that speaks money, that speaks wealth, that talks about the things that are going to assist you on your journey to building wealth? Or are you in a different type of environment? Because although we may be walking and talking and driving and doing everything else that babies aren't doing, we still have the opportunity to learn. And what we learn and how we learn depends on our environment. So if you weren't born speaking wealth or the wealthy language or the money language, then it's okay. You can learn and at any time. And that's what today's show is about. And it's specifically, again, for 20-year-olds, but it will apply to anybody. Okay, so I want you to, the first step for the 20-year-olds, or the first tip for today, is to move from being a sheep to understanding if you are following a sheep herder or a shepherd. That's the first tip. The first tip is to understand in this big picture, in this big ecosystem, right? So I know we've heard the term sheep. Are you following the herd or things like that? So I want you to start looking at yourself and say, okay, now I'm in my 20s. I hit 20, maybe I'm 19 going on 20, maybe I'm 25. Whatever it is in this space of my 20s, the first thing that I need you to do is identify if you're a sheep. And if you're a sheep, then you say, okay, I'm a sheep, but let me look around and see who's leading me. Let me look around to my environment. So if you're not familiar with sheeps and shepherds and sheep herders, let me break it down for you. Okay. So in a pack of sheep, there is a sheep herder, and the sheep herder generally is found in the back, and the sheep herder's job is to keep the sheep in order. And so the sheep herder does not do all of this by itself, by him or herself. The sheep herder usually has dogs, and the dogs are barking and, causing commotion and things like that to keep the sheep in line. Now, the sheep herder's job is to make sure the sheep move right along. He's not leading them anywhere. He's just like, okay, y'all are here. You're sheep. I want you to stay in line. I'm going to bark at you if need be. I'm going to put my dogs on you if need be. And I may take a nap sometimes because I know that y'all are so programmed to follow the barks of the dog that I may actually end up in the back of the carriage while the sheep are pulling, and I'm napping on and off because I got the dogs, the little stops in place. So that's one visual I want you to get. So when you think about that as it relates to finances, ask yourself, who are the sheep herders around you? When you're 20, it's time to wake up. It's like, all right, you done did the high school graduation thing. You may be graduating from college or preparing to graduate from college. And as you're preparing to graduate from college or whatever stage you are, maybe you didn't go to college, but at this time, I want you to look at your family, your friends, your relatives, everyone around you, and ask yourself, say, okay, I'm sitting here now. I'm a sheep. I've been a sheep for most of my life because that's what the average American is. You're born and you just follow what the sheep herder tells you to do. But then there's a shepherd. The shepherd has a different role than the sheep herder. The shepherd is also around the sheep, but the shepherd actually guides the sheep, trains the sheep, leads the sheep. The shepherd is the people who are around you who wants to enlighten you, who wants to educate you. The shepherd are the people who are telling you that you can do more. Is it the American Cream? Is it the people at the Henderson Financial Group? So your first thing when you were in your 20s, you got to figure out your role and say, I want to move from being a sheep and identify, am I being led by a sheep herder, or do I want to then be the shepherd for my family? Because one thing that I want my 20-somethings to do, right? So this is 20 all the way up. My 20-somethings to do is to understand that your parents don't know everything. Child, I know they lied. I know they wanted you to believe that because they wanted you to get to this certain space, but they don't know everything. And there is a big whole wide world outside of your immediate environment, outside of your immediate silo. And your goal then becomes, am I going to keep following these sheep herders? They just lead me over here. They bark at me when I don't do what they want me to do. When they tell me something and I don't agree. If I say I'm not going to college, they barking at me. If I say, I don't want to work at the county, they're barking at me. If I say I don't want to charge things on my credit card for them, they're barking at me. Realize and recognize where you are. So that's the first thing I want my 20-somethings to do. The second tip for my 20-somethings, and I wrote down 20 of them. I wrote down 10 of them. However, we got 30 minutes. So if we don't finish today, then it'll be a part 2 next Saturday. The second tip for my 20-somethings is to educate yourself about finance. You're no longer a sheep. We're going to break out of that. You've been a sheep long enough. And what that looks like, it looks like your family saying, child, you 18, you got to get out of my house. It looks like you graduating from high school and having to get your own job. It looks like you graduating from college and having to pay your own bills. So now that you have disconnected from the pack, you don't want to be herded anymore. You want to be led, and you're aligning with a shepherd or some shepherds. Second thing that you want to do is to educate yourself about finance. So how do you do that? I love YouTube University. You have YouTube University, you have books, you have mentors, and the people around you who are demonstrating wealth principles. Demonstrating wealth principles is different than the people around you who are flashy, or just maybe have a Mercedes Benz, but if they miss a day of work, then their whole financial structure is crumbling down. So if you missed the episode on the difference between savings and wealth building, I want you to go to my YouTube. That's hyacinthhenderson.com/YouTube and watch that video. You will then understand the difference between saving and wealth building, because a lot of people don't understand that. And it's okay. But in your 20 somethings, I want you to understand that. Your savings account and your investment account are two separate accounts, and they serve two separate purposes. They have two very different functions. And if we're not careful, as we're brought up when we're being herded, right? Our parents, our loved ones, not because they're bad people, they're not really breaking that down for us. So as you hit your 20 somethings, I want you to explore and educate yourself and say, wait a minute, there's a difference between saving and investing. I can do more. And here's the thing about mentors. You need them. You need mentors. You need people who are at levels that you have not yet achieved, but you see yourself there. You need those people. And I know the next question, I can feel the energy saying, well, Hyacinth, do I just call them up? Can you be my mentor? No. Nowadays, with the internet, you can have mentors without them even knowing you. Success leaves clues. What does that mean for you? Follow what they do. If someone is on educational platforms, YouTube, a podcast, have they written a book? Are you paying attention to their social media posts? Are you reading the things that your mentors are reading? Are you doing the behaviors that your mentors are doing? So when you think about your mentors, understand that you can be a mentee without actually speaking to the mentor that you have your eyesight on. But you need them because you're in your 20 somethings. And if you don't set these foundations now, then when you get in your 30s and 40s, you're going to have to do double work. So I think the 20s are the perfect time to break out and say, listen, okay, y'all got me this far. I understand, but now I'm going higher. Okay, so the second thing is you got to educate yourself. It's nobody's responsibility to educate you but you. And now we have the free internet for now, right? And you can search up anything you want. The third thing that I want my 20 somethings to do is understand your role and the role of value in the ecosystem, in the marketplace. And you say, Hyacinth, what's the ecosystem? What's the marketplace? I think we're all familiar with Amazon, right? So if you think about Amazon, Amazon is a marketplace of sellers who are selling different items. Amazon itself does not actually manufacture things. They don't actually make things. They just say, okay, you making this, you making that. I'm going to bring one big platform and you all get to compete in the marketplace based on reviews and based on price. Because when we go to Amazon and we look up items that we want to purchase, we look at the price. That's mostly the first thing that we do. But then after we look at the price, we're like, okay, we see this price on this. Now let me check the reviews. And if you're really skilled at checking reviews, you aren't just checking for all the 5-star reviews. You are going to click, and in case you didn't know this, let this be an educational moment. When you look at reviews and they have those ratings and they may say 105-star ratings, 24-star, 31-star, you want to click the 1-star rating. You want to click the 1-star rating so that you can educate yourself and find out what are people not happy about. Don't be blinded by the 5-star ratings because that's their job. To show you that first so that you then buy based on, oh, this is a 5-star rating without doing your research. So Amazon, again, is a marketplace. You look, they're competing based on price and ratings. And really, when you look at the ratings, they're showing you the value. So now let's apply this to you in your 20 somethings. Understand that you must provide value to build wealth. If you want to be wealthy, if you want to be financially successful, not financially stable, you got to provide some value. That means it's not good enough just to say, I went to college, I got a college degree. Okay, can you hire me? It's not good enough to say, I have all these good ideas and I'm going to do this one day and not do it. What value do you bring to a space? When I drop my 10-year-old off to school in the morning, I tell him every single day, your job is to learn so that you can create value. If you don't create no value, you're going to have a tough time in life. So the tip for my 20 somethings is to understand the value that you bring in the society. What value do you bring? Ask yourself, beyond your degree, beyond your appearance, beyond your knowledge, what value do you bring? Because how you use this information and translate it to other people is what makes you valuable. And then you'll start to see that you won't have the same problems that other people have because you provide value. If you don't provide any value, then it's like, okay, you can get out of here. People will do you any kind of way because they look at you and they're assessing your value. Just like when we look at Amazon. When we look and we're like, okay, well, it's $20, but the reviews are low. The value is not good. Why is the value not good? The value isn't good because although it's only $20, it's going to break in 2 days, or it may be shipped and it may be broken. So value is more important than price. Okay. So what value do you bring? How will you increase your value? To all my 20 somethings, it is not enough to stay stagnant. If you want to build wealth, you must increase your value. Since you now know the role that value plays, you cannot afford to do what the people that came before you and who are immediately around you did and get a job and stay on it for 40 years and brag about it. We are no longer doing that. We are finding ways to increase our value. How do you increase your value? Are you educating yourself? Are you taking different trainings? Are you obtaining different certificates? Are you perfecting your craft so that when it comes time to make some moves, everybody's like, oh, I want you on the team. I want you because you provide a value. If you don't provide value, then nobody really wants you. They're going to do you any kind of way. And that's in business. That's in personal relationships. That's when you want to have conversations about making change. You got to provide some value. Don't get college and education mixed up. So here's a common misconception. And somewhere along the lines, the people who came before us got it mixed up. Go to college. You got to go to college. When you graduate high school, you got to go to college. And so what we have is a society full of people going to college and not really being educated. Let me say that again. What we have is a society full of people going to college and not being educated. If you have not done so already, hit this share button. Today's live is about how to build wealth in your 20s. If you're over 20, it's okay. You can still incorporate these tips if you have not done so yet. So as you think about value and as you think about the educational system and the college system, ask yourself, do I really need to go to college to do this? Or if I am in college, am I getting an education? Because your education, what you know, and you don't have to go to college to get an education, to be educated. You don't have to go to college to be educated. If you want to, that's fine. But ask yourself, what are you learning and how are you going to translate that education into value so that you can come back into the whole marketplace, aka society, and then be of value so that people will want you. Number 4, create and live from a budget. I told a client the other day, a budget is a living, breathing document. If you think about anything that is living, you must give it attention. You must give it nourishment. You must water it. It is a living, breathing document. What do I mean by that? A budget is not a set it and forget it document. It's not. What does set it and forget it look like? Okay, I've been listening to the American Cream. I'm a part of the Cream tribe. I want to do something different. So I'm going to create this budget, and child, I'm not going to look at it again until the 30th of the month. And then by that time, I have to not only update my current month's budget. So if it's April and you don't look at your budget again until April 30th, you got to update your April budget, but then you have to prepare for your May budget. And so now it's like, this is too much. I'm getting frustrated because I'm looking at all these receipts. I'm looking at my bank account. I'm looking at how I maneuver things, and it's too much for me. That's because it's like a plant that you ain't water in 30 days. You bought the plant, set it down, and then now 30 days later you come back and it's dead. And so now you got to take it out. You got to massage the roots. You have to give it some more soil, speak life into it when you could have just been watering it, once or twice a week. Now you have to set aside more time. And sometimes that can get frustrating. And you might be like me, plant life ain't for me, right? But I've since come back from that. So when you think about your budget is a living document. In your 20s, it don't matter if you make $100 a month, $1,000 a month, or $100,000 a month. You need a budget. And we want to start this habit and treating it as a living document that you're spending time with at least once a week, so that as you continue to grow and amass more, you will know your numbers. Okay. Number 5, understand your credit score, and how to use it and not covet it. Understand your credit score, and how to use it and not covet it. Because here's the thing. When we were out, we're like, okay, we heard about credit. I want a 700 credit score. I want an 850 credit score. Okay, you got an 850 credit score, but you still ain't have nothing. What can you qualify for? So the difference is understanding what credit is. That's going to be a big one. That's going to save you in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. When you're in your 20s and you start to really understand credit, you'll be able to make different decisions. You'll be able to say, you know what? I know I'm at the register checking out, and they're like, hey, it's your lucky day. You can save 20% off your purchase just by applying. It only takes 3 minutes of your time. And you're like, okay, yeah, I want to save 20% of my purchase, and I'm going to apply. I know I got a 750 credit score. They're going to approve me, and then I'm going to pay it off right every time I use it. And then you don't. And so now you have this car with 28% interest, and you're like, okay, something else is going on. I got to go back to the store, and I could just put it on my card and charge it and keep adding to that 28% compounding interest. But when you understand credit, how to use credit, you won't be fooled. They'll be like, hey, you can get 20% off your purchase. It'll only take a minute on your time. And you'll say, no, I'm okay. You sure you don't want to save? I do, but it's okay. I'm good. I'm ready. I'm paying, and I'm leaving. Right? So you have to start flexing this muscle, strengthening this muscle now. You have to start doing it early. So that's understanding credit and understanding your credit score. Let me tell you right now, having a high credit score and not using your credit effectively to leverage, to get ahead, and to build wealth means nothing. We don't want to know what your credit score is. We want to know how you're using credit. And the only way you'll know the difference between the importance of your credit score and your use of credit is if you start educating yourself about credit. Do that now in your 20s. If you haven't done so already, please share this video. You are tuned into the American Cream Show. It is a financial educational show, and my main goal and focus is to educate you, empower you, and inspire you so that you can elevate to the next level. All right, number 6, and this is a big one. I know I'm going to step on some toes, so if you don't have your steel toe boots on right now, maybe you're wearing your flip-flops because the weather is warming up, you might want to move your feet or just stand there and let me step on them. Plan a debt repayment plan for your student loans. Yes, you need to plan a debt repayment plan for your student loans. You got them people's education. You apply for them loans. It wasn't right. You didn't know no better. I understand, but you got to repay the debt. Here's the thing. Why? Because your student loans have interest. And if you in your 20s and you like, I'm gonna just keep deferring this and deferring it, or I'm gonna go and then after I defer it till I can't defer it anymore, and then I'm gonna sign up for an IBR, income-based repayment plan, you're really helping the government. You're really helping the student loan servicers. You know why? They're like, okay, no problem. You don't want to pay? I'm gonna keep charging you interest. I'm gonna keep while you think you're rowing your boat to financial freedom, you thinking, woo, you got out free. You graduated college. Maybe you didn't graduate college. And you're like, okay, I got these payments deferred and I'm in this boat and I'm riding to my future. They're just poking holes in the bottom. I'm like, all right, we're going to see how fast you get there. You know what those holes in the bottom of that boat are? Interest. So as you say, can you defer it? No problem. Interest is accruing. Can you put me on an income-based repayment plan? I only want to pay $90 a month, even though I know I have the means to pay more. But instead of paying more than $90 a month, I want to bling, bling, and shing, shing on the internet. No problem. That's another hole in your boat. Because at some point in time, you're going to look up and look at that statement and say, oh my gosh, it's 10, 20, 15 years and I'm still paying on my student loans. And here's the thing. Look at the amount of interest. So a loan that you may have started at point A, it may have been a $50,000 loan, is now maybe an $80,000 loan because you thought that you were cheating the system. You ain't want to look at them student loan people. You was upset. I get it. I understand student loans. They kind of funky, right? because they won't let you apply for certain things, but they'll give you, okay, sign your name on this dotted line so you can get an education, and then go be looped into the cycle of having to pay off debt while I get interest off of you. I'm the government. I'm here to help you, right? So to combat that, in our 20s, we no longer run from our student loans. We're going to plan a debt repayment plan. We're going to look at that. We're going to understand the difference between forbearance, forgiveness, deferment, and how those relate to your life. All those terms have the potential to poke holes in the bottom of your boat while you're trying to row merrily down the stream. If you need help with debt elimination and coming up with a plan, a payment plan to structure your student loan debt elimination, give us a call at 305-825-1444. And if you haven't done so already, watch my previous video, No More Student Loan Debt, I believe is what it's called. No More Student Loan Payments. It's on YouTube, Hyacinth Henderson, No More Student Loan Payments. Watch that video. I go into details about interest, about the calculation, so that you can really get a full picture of it. So in our 20-somethings, we're not running from it anymore. We mad. We should have did it. Okay, but we did it now. Now what you going to do? We're going to come up with the plan. What are you going to do? Okay, we got 4 minutes left. So that means I am going to go into number 7, and then I'll save the rest for next week. We'll do that because we're keeping this short and sweet. Plus, I want to give y'all time to do some homework. Number 7, start an emergency fund. You need an emergency fund. Look at your parents. Look at your friends. Look at your loved ones. Look at the stars on TV. When an emergency happens, they're asking other people for money. They got GoFundMes. They selling fish dinners. You don't want that to be you. You need an emergency fund. Say it with me. I need an emergency fund. So while you're in your 20s and you're 20-something, I know we feel like when we're in our 20s, we're going to live forever and nothing's going to happen and that could never happen to me. Go ahead and start building your emergency fund. Just start. Why? Because it is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So what does that look like? Well, Hyacinth, dang, how do I do an emergency fund? If you didn't look at my episode on budgeting, go back and run the tape back and watch the episode on budgeting. Here's something simple. Take 10% of your income. It doesn't matter where your income comes from, and put it towards an emergency fund. Put it in a bank that is not associated with your regular bank. Maybe open up an online bank, whatever floats your boat, so that every time you get some money, whether it's your salary or your sugar daddy or sugar mama money, you are going to put 10% of everything in that emergency fund. Because one day, someday, if something happens, I need to be able to touch something. I've seen far too many people asking for money. I've seen far too many people, a hurricane comes, a natural disaster comes, something happens, and they're like, man, I can't pay my bills. Can you help me? While you in your 20-somethings, start flexing that muscle now. And before we go, and I'm going to save the other 4, 8, 9, 10, 3, and then I'll probably add 2 more just to round it out. I'll save the other tips for next week. Before we go, I want to leave you with discipline is the foundation to achieving your dreams. If you do not have discipline, it is going to be difficult for you to achieve your dreams. Why? Because you're not always going to feel like it. You're not always going to want to do it. There's always going to be a better option. There's always going to be something else that you can do, somewhere else you can go. But if you don't have discipline, it is the equivalent of saying, I'm going to be wealthy, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to do all these things. You're thinking the thought, and then because you do not take the action, and you don't take the action, you don't take the consistent action because you don't have discipline, then your dream dies. So the leaving thought is, how many of your dreams are you killing due to the lack of discipline? Nobody can kill your dreams but you. How many of your dreams are you shutting down? Are you deferring due to your lack of discipline? You have been tuned in to the American Cream Show. This is a financial educational show where I show you, teach you, lead you, guide you on ways to redefine the American dream on your terms with cream. We are not going to do the definition of insanity. We're no longer going to be insane in the membrane. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a new result. We've seen our family do that. We've seen the elders in the community do that. We currently see our friends do that. We are going from insane to being intentional about creating wealth with credit, real estate, entrepreneurship, assets, and mindset. Until then, I'll see you next week. If you haven't done so, make sure you share this video. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Hyacinth Henderson at YouTube. Stay tuned. At 10:30, you will have Understanding Money Part 2 with James T. and Robert Henderson Jr. I believe they may have moved that show up to 10:15, so I will find out. So between 10:15 and 10:30, the Understanding Money Part 2 is up. All right. Until then, stay safe and stay sane. Peace.